All right. Hi, everyone. I would love for you to tell me if this is working. I'm trying something very new, and I would love for you just to let me know if this is working. So just comment in the comment box and let me know. Beautiful. Thank you so much for letting me know that everything is up and working. I'm actually doing this on multiple devices to try and make it work exactly how I want it to. So I want to thank you for joining me. And please do make sure that you are sharing and getting in to this. I hope that this all continues to work well. Hopefully things aren't pixeled for you, etc. If they are, let me know and I'll just shift around what I'm doing to make it easier in terms of what you can see. But by the sounds of the comments here, everything seems to be working and we're good to go. A bit nervous with my first one of these type of Facebook Live. So yeah, I would love for you to start off by just telling me what your biggest concern is with remote teaching. So just in the chat, just get in there and just go, my biggest concern with remote teaching is, and just fill in the rest of that sentence. And I'll come back to those towards the end of this webinar. Now, to start with today, I'm going to be doing a few things. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to run you through HyperDocs. Now, during my most recent webinar, I actually spoke already a bit about HyperDocs. So if you haven't seen that webinar yet, it's actually still up on my site as a recording. If you want to see that webinar, it's on Facebook, it's posted up there. So if you're on this page, go to one of my more recent posts and you'll see the link to the most recent webinar, which was a Q&A one, and it was all about using Canva and using HyperDocs and stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about HyperDocs today and another couple of other ways that I encourage you to think about differentiating your remote teaching at this point in time. So firstly, what is a HyperDoc? So a HyperDoc is essentially a way for you to create a student-centered lesson plan. And the idea of HyperDoc is you give it to the student, and the student will then work through the steps on their own, or maybe in a pair or in a group or whatever it is. With remote, it's generally alone. So they're going to work through the steps that you've given for the lesson on their own. They might produce something and share it with you. And then at the end of the HyperDoc, you might have an extension activity or a link to the next HyperDoc. But here's the way that it helps with differentiating is that it allows students to go through at their own pace. That's number one. The other thing is that if you've designed your lesson well, you'll have some choices in there for your students so that they will actually, as they're working through, go, oh, I want to learn the content this way. So they might choose to watch your video, but then there might be some other students who will choose to read some content that you have a link, or they might choose to interview someone to get some information as well. So there's lots of ways that students can get information. It doesn't have to be a direct instruction format from you. Now, to go with this, what I think is really cool is that using the HyperDoc also frees you up as the teacher. So with the remote learning at the moment, rather than you having to have a video up like this where you're talking to your students and having to explain things to them, you send them the document, and then you might have a video that's live, but you actually are telling the students just pop in and out of the video as you have questions. And in the meantime, you might actually be having a look at the work that they're producing in that HyperDoc, because they'll be making it and putting it in that document, or maybe they'll be linking it to that document, and you'll see what the students are doing live. And that then enables you to be free to look at multiple students all at once and to not be the person who's constantly presenting. And now, obviously, this flows well into classrooms as well, where you will be able to give students the HyperDoc, and then that frees you up in the lesson to walk around and spend time with individual students. But you can do that remotely too. You can actually say, well, do you know what? I've scheduled time in with each student this period. Here's your HyperDoc for the lesson, but you're actually going to call particular students up every 10 minutes to have a chat to them like this, and then you might progress them on and get the next student to join you. And that's just a really good way for you to share and to be able to check in with each of your students in terms of where they're at, how they're going, what you need to do to help them moving forward. And that for me is really one of the key things differentiating, is getting to know your students and also allowing them to have choice and voice. So I'm going to switch over here and do my screen sharing. And so we'll click this button. I'm going to show you hyperdocs.co. So here is, we want to allow student voice and choice, but this is the one. Okay, hyperdocs.co. If you saw the webinar 2 days ago already, then this bit will be a little bit familiar. So I'm just going to share my screen here. And if I go over to hyperdocs.co, and you would actually land on the home page with hyperdocs.co. And at this home page, I want you to basically ignore everything that's on this landing page now. It used to be a bit different. I want you to go to Find, and you can click on Templates. And so you can actually go here to get quick access to your basic HyperDoc templates. And the reason I would encourage you to use the templates is, one, it makes it a lot easier, but two, the templates actually generally are designed around some pretty good pedagogy in terms of how you might want to present a chunk of content. And a HyperDoc doesn't have to necessarily be for one lesson either. You can do a HyperDoc for a whole week. And if you get really good, you can actually create HyperDocs for a whole term or for a whole unit. And so I want to encourage you to think about that as you're looking at these templates too, is that these aren't necessarily just one-off lessons. These can be used for a whole week or for longer even. Now, once you've got your template, okay, and these links will be in the recording afterwards, you can then go up here and click on samples. Now, this site is really fantastic for samples, because what they have is just, they've collected lots and lots of ready-made templates for various subject areas, and you can just go there and you can click on the subject area, and that can take you to a Google Drive that has a whole bunch of HyperDocs that are made already for that subject. So I'm going to save a click here and jump straight to the drive. So this is a level above. So if you clicked on the maths lessons, for example, you'll land in this folder. And so in this folder, you'll see that it has high school math up here. Primary math looks like is down here. And so these are a whole bunch of HyperDocs that have already been made. All these lessons are made already, or maybe they're multiple lessons have been made already for you to just grab, make a copy, and then alter and customize it for exactly what you want your students to do. And so this is really cool. There's a really great resource that's available for you to use at this point in time, is just to grab stuff, modify it slightly, share it with your class, and that frees you up then to be able to get in, do those checks with your students and monitor their work, and allow them to have choice, and allow them to have a bit of self-organization in the sense of their pacing of their learning as well. If I then go one step further, I'm going to show you what I've done for this document. I'm going to show you a little, very short booklet that I've made. Now, this short booklet, okay, this is for PDH. It's a stage 4 booklet, I think. And the idea of this book, I've taken some stuff from HyperDocs. So the whole idea of them exploring, explaining things, and then them applying it. And I've basically just put it into my booklets. And so in my booklets, what I now have is something that is more student directed. So the students get to choose the pace at which they work through this. And hopefully, I'm going to monitor my students and particularly help those who are struggling to make sure that they keep up to a particular pace. But I want to let my students who are just motoring through it to just continue to motor through it and get this work done. The other thing that I've put in here is a whole bunch of choice for my students. So I'm going to quickly just show you a little bit here. As I scroll down, you'll see the dot points and the outcomes that are being addressed, the inquiry question that's coming up for my students to actually have a look at. But I'm going to scroll down here. So this is my first section of choice. So first up, they need to explore things. And so they've got 3 different ways. They can interview 5 people. They could search the internet and make a list of 10 benefits of doing regular physical activity, or they can go to a YouTube playlist that I've already created and watch a few of those videos. So if I select the image here, that's what my YouTube playlist for them already. And so the students who don't want to go and do their own kind of research will just go and watch, but the other students might choose to do their own research and extend them in that sense. So there's a bit of choice there already. Then scroll down, have a take-home activity. We come to the explain section. this is a particular one that I want them to do that's quite specific, and so I didn't give them a lot of choice at this point. But then further down, I want to show you this bit where it goes, the apply. So right here, I'm giving my students a whole lot of choice. So here, they can choose one of the pieces of software that are there. So they could use a Google Doc, a Google Slides, Google Drawings. They could use Canva, PictoChart, Seesaw, Screencast-O-Matic, Screencastify, or just use their phone. Okay, and what I've asked them to do is to create a promotional piece that informs children their age of the benefits of participating in regular physical activity for their health, well-being, and life balance. And so you might, even at this point, you could steal this if you're a PE teacher and you need something for maybe year 7 or year 8, I think this is. You could share this with them and they can do this straight away. And they've got all these choices here for how they're going to do it. They might like the video, they might like to make an infographic, or they might like to just make a document that provides the information that is really important for those students to have a look at. And so that's a really nice, easy HyperDoc that you guys can grab. Now, I've actually got something for you here. I'm just going to show my screen for a minute because that's, there we go. So back to just me. And you can get your copy right there. So that's the copy of my HyperDoc template. So it's just a bit.ly, so bit.ly HyperDoc EG. Okay, so HyperDoc, like, and then an example. So EG is in capital. Look at how I've actually adapted that of a book format, but still including the key things here of students being able to direct this pattern, students being able to have a whole bunch of choice, so that what each student produces can actually be very different, and what each student learns and how they learn can be very different by giving those various choices in the instructions that are there for them to follow. So that's something I really want to encourage you to do with your students. Now, just as an extra thing for you here, I'm going to share this link as well. So this link will actually take you to a good slide deck that I made. And the slide deck I'm originally to run through a workshop I ran at a conference a long ago. And you can just go there, and it's essentially a HyperDoc to teach you more about HyperDocs. That's the way it's set up. That's the way it works. And so you should be able to just go to that link, google.gl/BCQ9, and you'll be able to then access that HyperDoc and learn more about HyperDocs. Another way you could learn about HyperDocs is by joining my members area in Teachers PD. I have an entire course in there that focuses on how to use HyperDocs. And if you go there, you can go to my YouTube channel, and some of the videos that are in that course are also on my channel for you to learn more about HyperDocs and how you can use them to really allow differentiation to happen in your classroom. They're such a great tool, particularly at this point in time when we're doing things remotely, to be able to just send that. And even if to them paper copies, if you're a school at the moment who are sending booklets and stuff home to your students, you can actually make paper copies. And so rather than putting links on that, actually put like a QR code, or just give various choices that they're going to create stuff that they're going to then submit back to you, whether that be for them to write a document, create a post, or for them to do a drawing or write a book or something. Enables them a lot more choice in what they're doing within there. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, now this is going beyond really what we were talking about in the webinar the other day, is to talk about using inquiry-based learning with students. I think using inquiry is a great way for differentiation to happen, because when it comes to inquiry-based, so inquiry is really all about getting your students to ask questions and allowing them to find time to answer those questions in your lesson, at this point at home, but during your time, right? So you're trying to get students to ask questions, to inquire more about that, and inquiry tends to kind of go down a rabbit hole. You might have one question and then another question and then another question that the student has, and as they're answering those questions, they'll ask another question, and that's really good for their learning, and it just causes differentiation to happen naturally, because different students will have questions as they go inquiry-based learning model. And so one of the ways that I would encourage you to keep an inquiry-based model for your learning here is actually to start off by having your pen. And so, yeah, with that last one, it was about physical activity and health. And so you might say, all right, guys, what do we already know about physical activity and health? And so we might list class, and then I might ask them, okay, what do you wonder about physical activity and health? And then I might have another column in there about learning. And so these, what they know and what they wonder, and then I'm going to, as they go through the unit, get them to fill in what learned that responds to really what they've wondered about the unit and the content that they think they already know. And so this is really important for them to think about this. So it's called a know, wonder, learn. So what do they know, what do they wonder, and then what have they learned as they go through this inquiry process. Now, of course, students need more than that for this inquiry process. They do need also to think through what it's like to do research, and they need to learn how to do research well. And I would encourage you, if you're going to use inquiry with your students, to teach them how to do research really well. Now, there's actually a section I'm giving away at the moment, a free introduction to G Suite course. And in that course, I have a whole section around how to use the Chrome Omnibox. Now, the Chrome Omnibox is essentially where you go to search Google. That's an Omnibox. And basically, the whole section talks about how you can use that to actually do, I think, called Google Scholar, or to refine your searches and do advanced searches within Google, so that you're teaching your students to find information that's really relevant. And then you might also want to teach them about how to use criteria to determine whether or not you believe the information that these people are giving us. So if they find a website, for example, that has just a blog post on it, a lot of blog posts, they're not very good, but there's a whole bunch of other ones that actually are fantastic. And the way you determine which ones are which really is to look behind the post and look at who the author is, and maybe have a look at what qualifications that their experiences are in this area. And then you can determine from that whether or not you would trust this person to give you really good, accurate information. So, link I just want to share with you too. So if you want to do that free G Suite course, there's a link there. Just go to teacherspd.net, and that'll actually, it's on the first home landing page that you get to. Just scroll, you'll see 2 free courses there. One of them is Introduction to G Suite for Education. Click on that. More than welcome to come and do that. It's 12 hours of accredited PD for you to enjoy. So is some free stuff, some information there around how to really help your students to basically take their own initiative with their learning. Now, what I find when I talk to teachers, particularly about inquiry-based learning, is they tend to think that their students aren't really do it. They feel like if they just go, oh, look, I want you to go and read this and whatever else, if you need to find more information yourself on this, students will basically just go, no, I'm not going to do that. And to a certain extent, that's true. Some of your students might not do that. That tends to more because of the way that we've set things as teachers than it is about the student. So we're so used to, or students are so used to, sorry, being spoon-fed information, where the teacher just gets up and regurgitates a whole bunch of information to them, and they just expect to sit there and accept that. But when you ask them to do it themselves, they're not capable, more that they're not used to it. And so you need to actually coach that process, where you coach them in the sense of, okay, we're going to search to find information around physical activity and health. What kind of terms put into Google search to find stuff? How might we use the advanced searches here to find better information? Who are some people that you might actually be able to interview or talk to get some reliable and informative content, rather than just going and looking at any first website is that comes up? It's really important that we teach our students this, and it's really important that we actually trust that our students can and will do this. And what I tend to find when I do this with students is those ones that are generally quite disengaged and that generally are quite hard for me to get doing things in class with the other more traditional direct teaching methods, they tend to actually come more to life and start to really engage with it, because they start to get differentiated for them, because suddenly they're looking at things that they are also interested in. They're the ones doing research and find stuff, and so that they want to go and watch a bunch of YouTubes about it, they can. And then they just need to have a look at who the person is in that YouTube and find out whether or not that information is reliable or not. And so they need to go through this process, and you need to coach them in that sense of how to do inquiry-based learning really well. And so take, for example, the first week to kind of set them up and go, okay, I'm going to teach you how to do some good searches. I'm going to teach you how to inquire and how to follow through on. If I find an article on the internet that's really good and its references at the bottom, I'm actually going to click on those references and find some information that's relevant to what I'm looking at. And so that's something that needs to be taught to your students. So not just read that article and go, okay, that's the information, but actually follow through and go, okay, where did that information come from? And then have a look at that information. Where did that information come from? And that whole process of getting deeper into the learning that's going on. And so inquiry-based learning helps to build questions, and it also allows them to think about and do their own research, which allows them to stretch out and have a look and follow their own little, sometimes it'll be tangents, and it's your teacher to kind of coach that back in. But generally, they're actually going to be looking at things that relate to what you're asking or the content that you're looking at. And so often, yeah, in a HyperDoc example, often some of the first things people put into a HyperDoc is this idea of exploring. And for the students to go and explore, it's for them to go and look around themselves. And they might refine and bring it in some actual direct teaching that relates to what they've explored, the content they've been, and then they can bring the content that they've found into those types of discussions and share it with us, and it then becomes this collaborative process as well. So my advice, if you want to do inquiry-based well, is to really start to reduce your spoon feeding at the moment, and because that's what students are expecting, and that's what they're going to continue to ask you for. And yeah, there are some teachers who think that if I don't spoon feed my students, they're not going to do the work. But I actually find it tends to be the other way around. If you stop spoon feeding them, they will do the work. The problem is that we say we're not going to, and then they don't do anything for a couple of days, and then you go, well, now I've got to spoon feed you. But if you just go, no, you actually have to do this, it's due tomorrow, and then they do the work, and then they know next time when you do it that they actually should start straight away, because you're not going to be doing that spoon feeding if they don't do the work. And I think that's the really important piece of information there, is that you need to make sure you don't do it for them if you've set it up in a way where they're meant to be doing the work. Okay, I'm going to jump into the chat here and have a look at what you've said and your comments and that kind of stuff. So please, this is question time. I'm going to spend a bit of time here just answering any questions you come up with. So just type in, Dan, can you help me with? And finish that. I'm going to come over here and just scroll through, and I'll pull up some of the questions and that are coming in through this chat and answer them. Lee, look, I'll quickly get Nessa hours for this. I'm sorry, because it's a live Facebook webinar, I can't accredit this as far as I'm aware. I will have to go back and check with to confirm that, but at this point, no, I'm not going to ask you to chuck all your Nessa numbers into a live Facebook stream, because then it gets saved there forever, and you may not want to share all the information. A lot of people chatting to each other, which is great. Does anyone have any actual questions before I do a little wrap? So if you, I'll put the, anything I can help you with. That's what I want you to let me know right now. Is anything that I can help you with in the comments? All right, so this is good. Thank you for sharing this. You do have stuff sometimes where students, that they can barely read it at certain times, and parents who can't help. Now, at this point, I'm going to emphasize that I am an avid flipped teacher. I love flipping the learning for my students, whether that be in a flipped classroom or flipped learning mastery type model. And so I want to really encourage you to think about how you could create really nice, unique, short videos maybe for your students. And there's a great extension on Chrome called Screencastify, which will allow you to make minute clips for free. Go through and create short little video clips that go with the document, maybe, where you actually are reading it to them and explaining it to them, so that they actually get what they're meant to be doing based on the video that comes with that piece. If you're back to work and not using technology, you might then have to stick that onto a USB stick or share it with your students somehow. Maybe even if they find internet, download it and then be offline. There's a few ways for you to do that. Where can you get the link to the Hyper booklet that I did? So that was go back here to the, and I'll stick it back up on the screen. So that is this one. So there's the link there. So just bit.ly/hyperdoceg. Now, this will be recorded. You'll be able to go back and pause it to look at this later as well. Yeah, good base differentiation ideas. Thanks, Fam. Look, I really like doing this kind of stuff. So particularly at the moment, if you're doing remote learning, you have to differentiate your prac stuff, because otherwise, students aren't all going to have the equipment at home. They're all going to have a room, the same kind of room. Some kids will have inside, go down to a park, where other kids will just have beautiful backyard. So by way of PE, I would encourage you to use something like a tic-tac-toe type HyperDoc, where you just create a basic tic-tac-toe little sheet, and they've got to do 3 items there to create a straight line, and obviously one of those will be the main activity that you put in the middle. But you want to just allow some choice there about what they can do in their home or what they can do in their backyards or just out on the street or something. So it might be, your middle one might be go for a run or ride a bike or something. But then you might have some other ones of, okay, I want you to video yourself making shooting some hoops outside, or I want you to video yourself practicing kicking a ball between some cones or between 2 bags or between any 2 things that they can come up with. And there's lots of, at the moment, lots of stuff around where people are coming up with really great ideas around what kids should be doing. I know at my school, they're encouraging a lot of students to focus more on skill stuff, and so they might be doing some juggling of a soccer ball or something. These are senior students, but of skills and recording them doing that and then sharing it back with the teacher. And that's a great way, I think, of differentiating your PE lessons as well. Darrell, my advice is, I've actually had a few casual teachers who are doing this free course. My advice is for you to just adjust what's being asked of you. The task that course is really just about the evidence that you show me that you've engaged with the course and those types of things. So still maybe create the lesson plans, have the G Suite in it. But then after that, what I'll do is to actually doing a post-reflection, maybe do a pre-lesson reflection where you think about what things could go wrong with this lesson, what might I be able to improve this. And so you don't necessarily have to do the delivery, because you don't get delivering anyway, that's your job, but you do get the hours for the reflection and the planning to use how you're going to use the actual apps. So that's my advice with as a casual teacher with my course at the moment. Yeah, Deborah, flipped learning is definitely something that I would encourage every teacher to learn about. I love it, and I've workshops on it, a course in memberships area, the introduction to flipped learning if you want to do that. But it's really about freeing you up. And so in the inquiry-based learning, using HyperDocs and flipped learning, they'll actually go to super well, because they all are about freeing you up to then be able to help students and freeing time up in class, where you can then do higher order thinking activities in your class or in your joined online remote stuff, where the students actually access and need it. Can I put the link in the chat box? Yeah, I should be able to do that. Let's go to my banner. That's the wrong one. You want this one. So I need to not be showing it for me to, yep. There we go. Put that in the comments for you. There you go. There's your link. Beautiful. So that's to my one, that my example HyperDoc that I put up there. If you're very welcome just to take that and use it. Should ask you to make a copy of that if it doesn't. No. Look, at this point, I don't see too many other questions coming in here. In terms of PE Prac, we are looking at using Strava to create activities for them to do. That's great advice, Kate. I'm not overly familiar with Strava, but if you want a bit more information in the chat there for people, that'd be fantastic. All right. Well, at this point, I might just wrap up a bit and talk to you a little bit about just what I'm doing at the moment to help as many people as I can. So obviously, my free Introduction to G Suite online course that is 12.5 hours of NESA accredited training, and you're more than welcome to jump online and speak if you haven't already. I also, at the moment, I have I think it's about 2 days left. It ends on Sunday. I have a sale going on at the moment, giving $100 off my membership. And that membership basically gives you access to all of my online courses. So you get access to that hyper course, to the flipped learning course, and there's a bunch of other ones in there too. My personal favorite one is about it's called Working for Learning. It's all about how students learn and then how to apply that into your program. It's my personal favorite because I loved learning it and I loved then creating the course as well. But I want to really encourage you, if you're keen to do some more learning and you're keen to do some more learning, particularly with me, to jump over there in the next 2 days before that sale ends. You then have another week nearly until Friday of your first week back at school to register at all. Once Friday comes around at 5 o'clock on Friday, I'm actually going to stop taking new members because I want to really focus on providing more quality for my members. And so I'm going to start doing these kind of monthly webinars with my members only, where they get monthly 1 hour with me, giving particular training that they request as well. I might even do a bunch of sessions live in Facebook, my private group that I'm going to give my members access to. And there's also obviously the forums and stuff that are in the website as well. If you have not registered, there are 2 days left of that sale. Take advantage of it. It's $100 off, which means the price is only $150 plus GST, which if you're going to get 60 plus hours of NESA accredited training, that's definitely the best I've ever seen. So please do take advantage of that in the next 2 days. I would love lots of you come and join me. Until then, I'll just sit here and respond to any comments that come up. But thank you guys so much for up half an hour of your time to come and learn a bit more about differentiation. And I hope that you go and use the inquiry based learning type approach. In fact, my podcast going to come out on Sunday at 5 o'clock is all about inquiry-based learning and how to do that really well. So if you haven't heard of that, it's the Effective Teaching Podcast. Please make sure you jump over there. I would love to see you, I would love for you to go and listen to that podcast. Great. Can I help you with ideas for encouraging students who want to take shortcuts to produce as little as possible in the quickest time? Yeah, Deborah, look, I've got to say, during remote learning, one of the things that I feel like society is kind of is that students really need to be set up really well to get work done anyway. So you think at the moment, we're teaching from home. We probably have kids at home if you've got kids, and the stress that then has on you and your ability to look after your students and your ability to look after children, their learning and that kind of stuff. So I tend to kind of think at this point with COVID-19 coronavirus, doing everything remotely, to be as much grace as you can really, and to think that presume that the student is actually giving their best unless it's very clear that the things are otherwise. So there might be things going on at home. It might be very hard for them to access the stuff that they need. If there's 6 kids at home, there's one computer example. It's something that until you find out all the information from your students, that might need to actually investigate there. They might be doing it as quick as possible because their system needs to use the computer. Otherwise, if it is just a general laziness, my advice to any teacher when they have a lazy student in class is to contact parents and talk to parents about it and try and get them to work with their child to produce work, or at least to put in more effort work. And it might even be that getting as much, they're not as engaged, it's not something that they're interested in which case you might want to think about ways where you could possibly even increase their engagement and what they're doing with that learning. So that's advice there with that aspect. Leah, have you actually managed to get the link from the chat where I put it in? I hope you have. This is definitely something that people need to make sure they're thinking about. There's too much stuff at home, and the ability to have good connectivity internet. There's a lot of things going with this whole remote stuff. Our whole internet across Australia is not actually set up to cope with it well. So generally speaking, things are struggling. And I know that when you're looking at everything in life, I really just have to think about that this is students, and that there's probably a lot more going on than what we see on Facebook, particularly when we're just jumping in and having a quick chat to them like this, maybe, or maybe you're sending emails to them, or it can be hard to really keep them on task and focused. So Deborah, it's good that you've seen that there are going to be issues with internet. There's going to be issues with how many devices are at home. There's going to be issues with a whole bunch of stuff. So it's really important that we remember and consider that as we're looking at the amount of work our students are actually producing for us. So thanks for that understanding there. All right, guys. Well, I might straight after this jump into the Teachers PD Facebook group, and I'm just going to sit there and chat on my phone to who's got questions. I'll stop the live recording though now. I'm going to end this broadcast, and the video will be up on Facebook recorded for anyone who wants to access it later. So thank you guys so much. Yeah, I would love to chat to you in the future. Please make sure you don't forget, only a very small amount of time left before that sale ends. I don't want someone to miss out. I hate getting those emails, I know I'm going to get on Monday, of someone saying, oh, I didn't get a chance to sign up. I really wanted to, and now it's gone. I hate getting those emails. So please make sure you get in and register as soon as you can if that's something you're interested in.